Today on the official Marvel podcast, we're chatting with legendary casting director Sarah Halley Finn about casting the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I certainly didn't think after graduating from Yale and going to do theater off-Broadway in New York, I would be working with Marvel and creating superheroes.
Plus, Marvel Digital design lead Anne-Marie Lombardo shares what's happening in the world of Marvel Unlimited.
There's always new comics. And on top of that, there are exclusive comics that aren't even available, anywhere else.
And we are diving into the comic book history of Marvel baddie, the Leader, aka Samuel Stearns. I'm Preeti Chibber.
I'm Langston Belton.
And this is the official Marvel podcast. Sarah Halley Finn, you know her as the casting genius behind most of your favorite MCU shows and movies. But she didn't start her career in the Marvel sandbox. In fact, her casting journey started in theater.
And through that process, I started producing theater a little bit because I was working with playwrights and we thought, all right, I don't just have to act in this, let's get that play up there. And then I started assistant directing. And I also learned other aspects of production. And I think that oriented me really well to be part of a collaborative team, which casting is very, very collaborative. And then a woman that I was working with, assistant directing, was a casting director. And her name is Risa Brayman Garcia. And she offered me my first job. I was always running around and doing temp jobs to make money and pay my rent. And she said, just cast this movie with me. And even though I knew what casting was from an acting perspective and from the outside, I had never fully seen it. And so I started this job and basically about 3 years went by and I never looked up. I was so fascinated with how each piece comes together, how one ingredient can completely change the whole ensemble and how it works. How do you put this together piece by piece? How do you create a whole ensemble? And so I found it really fascinating and I started with that and really just kept going. I don't know. I certainly didn't think after graduating from Yale and going to do theater off-Broadway in New York, I would be working with Marvel and creating superheroes. But it's been a very fun playground to play in, and really, these are big stories and big myths, and the amazing opportunities for actors to stretch and play.
Sarah's resume includes iconic projects like Marvel Studios' Iron Man, Thor, Captain America the First Avenger, and, of course, The Avengers. Here's Sarah on what she remembers most about assembling our heroes for the first time in The Avengers.
Honestly, it's a little bit hard for me to talk about it from an outside perspective because I'm so very close to it. But what I really remember when we were casting it is that our focus was very singular. It really was entirely about who is the best person to bring this character to life. And then once we got the main character, how do we best surround them? So when you have somebody that's newer on the scene, like a Chris Hemsworth, could we get an Anthony Hopkins? Could we get how do we then build the ensemble? If it's Chris Pratt and he's known more for comedy, what if we bring in Zoe, who's really, we know is going to up the ante for him and make it challenging. But with every character, I was always casting one movie at a time. So I was never really casting the Avengers. That all was able to happen magically. And I do think it's a testament to the caliber of actors, to the writing, to the directing, to the vision that Kevin had throughout, and really also probably benefited from the time that we had to live with these characters and get to know them and the stories that were being told and the way they all were growing with us. But when they did first come together in the Avengers, the reaction to that film was electrifying, I think, for all of us, and honestly, humbling. I remember Louis D'Esposito saying after the Avengers opened, he said, it's not like people were walking around high-fiving each other. He said they had tears in their eyes. We just sort of couldn't believe it, but we had all worked so hard and cared so much, and I think that was true for every aspect of production, and I think that level of passion and commitment and hard work came through.
With a career as legendary as Sarah's, it's no surprise that she's had some standout highlights, two of the biggest being casting Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man and Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury.
Well, with RDJ, it's a famous story now that he was asked to screen test. And it's maybe not that we didn't have a good sense that he would be a great fit for Tony Stark, but I think that he ruled out any possible conversation that he wasn't Tony Stark. I think it was so undeniable. He owned that character. He brought it to life. It was his. It felt like there was no one else that could possibly play that part. So I think we knew it, we had an instinct, but his willingness to actually do a screen test was quite remarkable. And he was more than game. And also his enthusiasm for the role, I would say that's another secret, maybe, of casting, is that it only works when the actor genuinely wants to play the role. And I think that he genuinely did. He was all in. And so the rest is history. And Samuel L. Jackson is Samuel L. Jackson. So that was exciting. And at the time, I think quite, again, surprising to people, because it was the first time that many options had been considered and requested, and that became public somehow. And so I think it was already a new, bold idea that they were putting into place.
Some other casting moments, though, are truly unforgettable for Sarah, like Pom Clementieff's audition for Mantis in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and Chadwick Boseman's commitment to T'Challa.
One that stands out to me was Pom Clementieff's audition for Mantis. She didn't have a lot of information to go on. I should dig up her original audition because it would be fun to see again. It was so out of this world wild that we didn't even know what to make of it. And again, I don't think she had any idea what the character would look like or how that character would speak, but she had such a crisp and unique and original and energetic take on it that I remember James Gunn immediately was very blown away by her and what she was doing. And of course, she ended up landing the part. Another one that stands out, which maybe was a little bit of a different process, but Black Panther, I remember when we cast Chadwick that he really wanted to have an African accent. And that was really important to him. And I think that there was a lot of conversation around that at the time. Would that be acceptable to audiences? Would that make, would that work for the character? But he felt so strongly about it. And I think kind of teeing off John Connie, a South African actor who is speaking Kosi, I think that influenced Chadwick, and that ended up becoming the foundation for the language of Wakanda that they were developing. And it's really a beautiful story because ultimately Ryan and Kevin and everyone got on board with his vision, and it became so much a part of the fabric of the film, and I think helped bring Wakanda to life, and really ultimately I think influenced the culture. I remember when we were first doing Black Panther, looking for younger versions, we had a hard time finding young kids that could mimic that accent. And then only a few years later, when we were casting What If and we needed to have young T'Challa, we were flooded with auditions in perfect accents. And it was really beautiful to see how much the melody and the music of this accent was now in our culture because of that one decision that Chad felt very strongly about. And I think even furthermore, I think it influenced Ryan to come on board and direct Black Panther when he saw an early cut of Civil War and understood the potential of bringing Wakanda to life because of that.
What's wild is how much of an MCU actor's real-life personality can shine through their on-screen character. According to Sarah, that's no coincidence.
I think that certainly there's essential qualities that they bring to the roles that matter, that are in the shared existence, the shared life of them and the character. They are acting. They are all really good actors. And I take it honestly as a huge compliment because I feel like then I hopefully have done my job well. But I think, of course, there's going to be commonalities. Downey's wit, his intelligence, his pace, his curiosity, that is part of who he is. And with Chris Evans, in a way, it was his very reluctance to play Captain America that made us want him all the more. He has humility. He has a quiet strength to him. And yes, he can play a villain, and yes, he can play all these other characters, but I think that there was something that really drew us to him for that part, and it was that ironic that he wasn't sure if he was gonna take on the role. So all of these played in. I mean, with Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther, certainly, I think we can't talk about him without understanding his immense humanity, dignity, and spirit. So, yes, there are many qualities and essential qualities I think we can see in them. But I do think at the end of the day, they're tremendous actors.
Now, if you're asking yourself, okay, so what does it take to land a gig as a Marvel superhero? Well, Sarah has some advice for you.
A, be prepared. Be prepared, keep it up. As an actor, it's really important to continue to hone your craft, have a support system, have classes. If you're an athlete, you're going to train every day. If you're a painter or a musician, you're going to play every day or paint every day. As an actor, you have to have the same diligence and really stick with it. Keep growing, keep developing your craft so that when that opportunity comes, you can seize on it and you're ready. I also would say stay open because we'll get the same. We have a lot of actors say, I really want to play. I'm not even going to name the character because then everybody's going to be talking about whether we're casting for this character. I want to play X character. And what I would say is, I don't always know ahead of time what we're going to be casting, but we might not be casting X character. We might not be casting that one for 5 years or more, or 10 years, or ever. Maybe we are, but I would say to an actor, maybe don't be too set on one particular role. Stay open. Because even the famous stories of like Tom Hiddleston auditioned for Thor, and he ended up being the most perfect Loki I could ever imagine. So even as an actor, you might think, I really want to play this part, but there could come to be another opportunity earlier or at a different time than you think. So stay flexible. Oh, and I guess the practical advice is also put yourself out there. If you are sitting at home and I don't know where to find you, that's not good. Make sure you're on IMDb, you're listed. And even though we are not able to have superhero abilities and pop all over the world at any time, we do, and I have a most amazing team, I think, I could ever imagine. We research constantly. We read constantly. We see as much as we can. But when we're not able to go to Toronto, we're reading about every review. When we're not able to go to Williamstown Theatre Festival or Actors Theatre of Louisville, we are reading what's happening there in the summer. We're covering New York theater, LA theater, London theater, Chicago theater. So if you're an actor, make sure that you're visible and you're putting your work out there. And even now there's TikTok, there's Instagram, there's YouTube, there's so many outlets. So that would be the other piece of more concrete advice I could give.
It also turns out that the visual development team doesn't just make your favorite characters look cool on screen, they can also help influence casting choices.
There are times when we're considering someone and people may or may not be sure, and we'll ask the art department to do a mock-up. And that can be very telling and very informative about how they're actually going to look in the costume, how it might fit, what they might design around them. But there have also been times when those pieces of artwork have convinced an actor to sign up. Because we'll send it to them and they're like, I look cool. And that actually can also help convince actors because they're not given scripts. This is not really a traditional process, right? Where we're sharing scripts and information. Many actors are not given scripts until they're already cast. Sometimes we'll take them from the script. Agatha, we did take pages from the script and then we'll just take out any spoilers. But for example, when we first started casting Spider-Man, we saw thousands of people for that early search. I think the first sides we used were from Weird Science. Like I've pulled stuff from old plays, we'll pull stuff from movies. A lot of times what we'll do is go through and come up with a bunch of ideas on our own and then share that with the director and say, what would you like? Working with Destin on Shang-Chi, he had the idea to use Good Will Hunting, which ended up being a genius scene because it gave us a lot of the same emotional beats without giving away spoilers from the script. So we were able to kind of get to know our actors and what their qualities were and how they worked and what their range was without actually using the script.
Once a casting choice has been made, Sarah says that seeing an actor return for another MCU project is one of the most rewarding aspects of her job.
Honestly, I am like a proud mom. It brings me a lot of joy. It feels really rewarding to know that they have this not only unending talent where they can continue to shine in different ways and show different skills and parts of themselves, but that they have this ongoing connection with the audience, because that's also really a big part of it. That's really an intangible in casting, is trying to imagine who's going to connect. And so I think when there's a desire to bring them back again over and over, I think that really speaks volumes. And even at Deadpool, I saw Kevin and we were talking about Roger Messendon, who first cast Hugh Jackman in 2000. Like, what an incredible instinct. And then to think about how long he's been able to continue with this character. It's been amazing. I guess that's another quick moment. It's been truly amazing. When I say we've always really been focused on the task at hand, I am so focused, still on like what's coming next. But to sometimes get to just exhale and look back and realize it's been an enormous privilege for me. Not every casting director gets to stay with a story throughout the franchise. And so for me, it really has been an incredible honor and privilege to be with these stories and with these characters for more than 15 years now. It's a long time.
That all said, Sarah's not shy about admitting that the job does come with its fair share of challenges.
Honestly, almost every one of them. Because I think the pressure is enormous to get it right. So even with a part that would seem on the surface like, of course, Scarlett Johansson played that part, it's always been a process. Every role has been a process. But I can think of a few that were particularly challenging. And I think that Star-Lord was hard to cast because we hadn't had a space opera, so to speak. We hadn't had a film like that. We hadn't had anything that was as comedic as Guardians. People were a little unclear about what that might look like. Again, we weren't giving out scripts, and two of the main characters were a raccoon and a tree. So yeah, so that I remember being a very long road. We had several screen tests. It was really a long search and a hard search. I think we landed it. I think we ended up exactly where we should have. And I do think that Guardians really opened the door to a whole new realm of storytelling at Marvel.
However, after a decade plus of casting the MCU, there's one thing that Sarah is most proud of.
When I meet people whose lives have been positively affected by the stories. I remember during the pandemic, I got letters and calls from people saying, I went home to be with my parents and we ended up watching the whole Marvel franchise together and it really brought us closer. Or when I meet young people and they tell me that some of these characters have really helped shape their lives, that is beyond anything I could have ever imagined getting to be a part of.
So, Preeti, could you imagine walking around just acting normal, knowing that you helped assemble the cast for Marvel Studios' The Avengers?
Oh, absolutely not. You would see it on my face. Everyone would know. Everyone in the world would know. Everyone everywhere would know. In my coffee shop, not just my barista, every patron. I would tell everyone.
Yeah, I'd grab people on the street and whisper it to them. I mean, my cat would tell me to shut up. She wouldn't even be safe from the secrets.
I mean, at least the cat couldn't tell the secrets because the cat can't talk.
Well, I don't know. Well, clearly you haven't spent time with my cat.
Does that cat know we're talking about her?
Mm-hmm.
Was that your cat taking credit for casting Chris Hemsworth?
Yes, I believe so. That would explain all the very specific gift baskets I've been receiving. Okay, Sheep, off you go.
So, you heard Sarah Halley Finn share her experience casting the MCU. Well, you're about to get another peek behind the curtain from someone else in the Marvel family. I was joined by Marvel digital design lead Anne-Marie Lombardo to discuss the Marvel Unlimited app, her most memorable pinch me moment at work, and more. I am joined by digital design lead at Marvel, Anne-Marie Lombardo. Very excited to be chatting with you. Can you tell us what you do at Marvel?
So I am the digital design lead. Currently, I work with the Marvel Unlimited marketing team. And basically, my team is responsible for pretty much any of the graphics that you see online, anywhere, as far as ads, Instagram posts, social posts, and even down to some print ads and a lot of the Comic-Con graphics that you'll see.
That is really cool because I don't know that people always think about like how many people are involved with every aspect of comics making.
Oh, definitely.
Can you talk to us a little bit about your connection to Marvel? Like, have you always been a fan?
So it's funny, actually. I grew up watching the X-Men cartoons as a kid. So that was always my favorite. But I wasn't into Marvel until my first job out of college. I actually worked for WWE, the wrestling company. And we ended up doing some partnerships with Marvel at some time. And they got me into the comics and, particularly I really enjoyed the art. And so from there, I started reading more comics. And then actually once the first Iron Man movie came out, it was kind of when I really got hooked.
How did you actually get started as a digital design lead here?
When I started in college, my first major was actually historic preservation.
Wow.
So I really enjoyed art always, but I had this idea that I wanted to restore like old paintings. But it turns out it kind of really wasn't for me. And when I was at college, I somehow got Photoshop on my computer. And I started making, kind of funny photos, and I started making invitations and doing interesting things. And so I ended up doing that. And I just kind of realized that I really enjoyed, using the computer to make all these things. And it was so fun, all the stuff that you could do. So from there, I changed my major and I started doing more design work. And then out of college, I started working for WWE. And from there, I changed jobs to CBS. And when I was just kind of one day kind of getting a little bit bored, I was like looking for, job openings. And I was like, wow, it'd be really great if I could work at Marvel. And there happened to be a job opening. I was like, I have to, take my shot. And it was really exciting.
What does a digital design lead actually do? And then what does a typical day look like for you?
So we kind of do everything that you can think of that's digital for marketing and for anything that you see around. In a typical day, it could be anything new every day. As a design lead, I manage a team of designers. I like to make sure that I always get my hands dirty as well and jump in and try to help out as much as I possibly can.
Can you remember the first time that you sort of understood that this was an actual job?
It's funny, I remember like my first day jumping in and being like, wow, I'm really overwhelmed. Even for someone who is a fan and there's so much that you know about, that you think that you know about, there's so much more. Mm-hmm. There's just so much more. So being there, you feel how important Marvel is to people. I think I kind of realized how important it was, mostly because my dad was always telling random strangers that I worked for Marvel because he was so happy. I was like, I guess, this is a big thing.
That's really cute. I mean, speaking of which, this is a big question, but out of everything you've worked on at Marvel, what is something that you're really proud of?
I really enjoyed working on the Marvel Unlimited app. That was really fun to see when you could see the star rating go up because people are really enjoying it. But also, I really enjoyed working on the walls for San Diego Comic-Con are really fun because you get to see a lot of people's reactions and see how they like it.
You mentioned Marvel Unlimited, and I've written for Marvel Unlimited. It's an incredible app. Like, if you are a comics reader, like I can remember when it launched, and I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. At my fingertips, access to so much. Can you tell our listeners who might be unfamiliar with the app what it is and what's going on in Marvel Unlimited?
Marvel Unlimited, if you're a comics reader, it's kind of a no-brainer because it's basically all of Marvel's library and in your hands. You can take it anywhere you want. You could read anytime, anywhere. And it's got old comics and it even has new comics. New comics will be in as early as 3 months. So basically everything is on there that you can read. It's over 30,000 comics and it's growing every day. There's always new comics. And on top of that, there are exclusive comics that aren't even available anywhere else. So it's the only place you can read them. And my personal favorites would be Jeff the Land Shark and Alligator Loki. Those are like my two favorite ones. If you enjoy comics, you're going to enjoy Marvel Unlimited.
You have your job, but you touch a lot of the work that other people do. If you could do any other job at Marvel for a week, what would it be?
It's funny. I've always loved actual movies. So I think if I could do like storyboarding or, some kind of like animation graphics for movies, I think that would be really amazing.
So if somebody was interested in, a job like yours and working in digital design, do you have any advice for them?
Design, it is a complicated and it's a competitive field. But a lot of times what people don't realize is that if you put in the effort and the work and you show that you're really passionate, that's going to come through no matter where you go. People are going to see that you're passionate and that you really take pride in your work and what you want to do. And that's something that you really want to do. So I would just say, be true to yourself and invest in yourself. And also be prepared to work as a team, too. Mm-hmm. Teamwork is really important, being able to work as a team. And it's something that here we do really well at Marvel. We have a really nice kind of family feel, and I love it.
Yeah, creative work requires so much collaboration, which only makes the thing better, I think, when you are on a team that all really clearly, like you said, have the passion and have the care and can just build on ideas. Is there a moment you can think about during your career at Marvel that is like a pinch me moment? Like you still sort of can't believe that it happened.
One thing that I feel like I'll never forget is watching Endgame with the entire company. Being there with all your friends and all the people that you worked with, and everyone worked so hard on everything, and watching that movie for the first time. And it was such an event, and watching it all happen and all those scenes that make everybody, get crazy. It was really, gives you goosebumps. It was really an amazing experience to sit there and have that whole culmination happen.
Yeah, I can imagine that would have been an incredible experience.
It was really amazing.
This was such a wonderful conversation. Thanks again so much for joining us. And if you're curious about the Marvel Unlimited app, you should know that it's your one-stop destination for over 30,000 digital comics, spanning the entire Marvel universe. Auto-renewal and other terms apply. Marvel Unlimited is open to U.S. residents ages 18 and up. See marvel.com/unlimited for details.
So, Preeti, why do you think it is that so many super geniuses become villains?
I mean, speaking from personal experience, I can tell you that being smart is just really hard.
What about being a villain? Is that from personal experience?
That's the easy part.
Aha, yes.
I mean, we certainly have our good guy smarties in the Marvel universe, like the Fantastic Four's Reed Richards, Tony Stark, or Moon Girl, Luna Lafayette. But maybe being super intelligent just makes some people feel superior to everyone else, and that ego can lead them down a dark path.
So you're saying it gives them a big head. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, yes?
I see what you're doing there. Yes. Today, we are taking a deep dive into the history of the Leader, the Incredible Hulk's mega brainy and very, very large-headed archenemy.
Very large head, yes. But Samuel Stearns, a.k.a. the Leader, doesn't start off as a genius at all. In the beginning, he's a high school dropout, barely talented enough to hold down his job at a government research lab in the Southwest. And we're not talking a white lab coat wearing type of job. This is more of a dirty coveralls, lugging barrels of toxic waste kind of gig, and that is where things go very wrong for Samuel Stearns.
Or, if you ask Stearns himself, very, very right. One of the extremely dangerous containers he's carrying around cracks and explodes, dousing him in gamma radiation. By all rights, Stearns should be dead, but instead he wakes up in a hospital with an unquenchable thirst for knowledge. Dude binge reads a library's worth of books and then some, taking in as much data as he possibly can get his hands on. And those hands, by the way, they're slowly turning a deep shamrock hue, along with the rest of him. Within a week, Stearns is green enough to win a Kermit the Frog lookalike contest.
Also, his head is now, and I cannot stress this enough, enormous.
Stearns' gamma-fueled brain balloons in size, and his cranium expands with it, as does, I assume, his hat size.
This guy could rent out his forehead as a billboard if he wanted to.
But he wants more than that. He wants to rule the world. Very quickly, Samuel Stearns aims his newfound intellect towards the domination of those he deems inferior. He dubs himself the leader and immediately goes about hiring armies of spies and henchmen, building secret lairs, plotting government takeovers, all that cool bad guy stuff.
Yeah, much of the leader's world domination plans involve stealing cutting-edge technologies that could be used for his own diabolical plans. And when he sends one of his spies to swipe some battle armor created by a certain Dr. Bruce Banner, that henchman is thwarted handily by the Hulk.
Spoiler alert, Bruce Banner is the Hulk.
Which Stearns knows, but he still wants Banner's invention. So, if at first you don't succeed, try again. This time, the leader sends a bona fide supervillain, the Chameleon, to obtain the battle armor.
And the Chameleon is stopped by the Hulk.
So the leader builds a super strong android, which he dubs the Humanoid, and sends that.
And the Humanoid is stopped by the Hulk.
So the leader sends an entire army of humanoids.
Hey, guess what? Hulk smash.
Yeah, well, this is the start of what will turn out to be one of the longest-running rivalries in Marvel Comics. It is a classic matchup of brains versus brawn.
And the leader makes his beef with Banner very personal. He even sends a mind-controlled supervillain, the Rhino, to bust up Bruce's wedding to his longtime sweetie, Betty Ross.
In addition to his solo outings, the leader is also a member of the Intelligentsia, a who's who of evil geniuses who get together to cause trouble. Along with your boy Stearns, you've got the Mad Thinker, Egghead, the Wizard, the Red Ghost, and MODOK, the only guy with a larger skull than the leader.
That is a lot of brain power. Who could possibly be the leader of a group like that?
I'll give you 3 guesses.
Just kidding. Of course I know who it is. It's not like the guy named himself the Follower.
It's true. But here's the question. Is the leader actually a good leader?
Well, perhaps the most notable of the Intelligentsia schemes comes after they figure out how to create a Hulk of their own using red gamma radiation. The Intelligentsia approaches General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, the longtime head of the U.S. Army's anti-Hulk division, and perhaps the only person to hate the Hulk more than Samuel Stearns. They convince Ross that to beat a Hulk, he must become a Hulk, and he lets them turn him into the Red Hulk. Of course, this is only because they want control of some Hulk-level power for their own devious purposes.
And when Ross realizes he's being used, the Red Hulk, who, in addition to being super strong, can also absorb energy, drains the leader of all his gamma radiation, turning him back into old dinky Sam Stearns.
And that really could have been the end of it, if not for General Ross's big fat ego. Ross, having apparently learned nothing from what just happened, decides he could use the leader's strategic mind on the new Thunderbolts team he's putting together. So he repowers Samuel Stearns with red gamma and brings him on board. And then guess what happens?
Just as Red Hulk betrayed the Intelligentsia, the Red Leader betrays Ross and the Thunderbolts. Samuel Stearns escapes and happily reverts to his life of crime and Hulk baiting, mostly Hulk baiting. He really hates the Hulk and continues to be a persistent nemesis.
Oh, and he also turned himself green again.
Which, from an aesthetic sense, is simply the better choice.
It's also the color of envy. And when the leader's main goal in life still seems to be proving himself superior to Bruce Banner, there's no color more fitting.
For Samuel Stearns, it is easy being green. We are less than a month away from the release of Marvel Studios' Captain America: Brave New World. In the comics, it's been over 10 years since Sam Wilson first picked up the shield, so let's take a look back at one of his most inspiring moments. In Captain America and the Mighty Avengers, issue number 4, released in 2015, written by Al Ewing, Sam Wilson is relatively new in the role of Captain America. The public doesn't know yet what to think of the new Cap, which throws him into a fit of depression and despair. Fellow Avenger Spectrum, aka Monica Rambeau, urges Cap to answer the question, how and why does Captain America come back from defeat? To which Sam replies, Captain America is not just for the good days. He can't be. I can't be. If Captain America can't stand for the dream on the very worst day, when America is fallen, then there is no Captain America. Because our worst day is only where we start from, where we rise from. And if the man in the flag is too special to fall and rise and struggle with the rest, then God help us all. If I've got to work harder now, prove more, that's always true. And that's a weight I am proud to carry.
Next week on the official Marvel podcast, Captain America Brave New World director Julius Ona takes us behind the camera ahead of the film's release.
Much like the first film being a World War II film, playing in the paranoid thriller space, this is also playing in that sort of thriller space as well that is full of grounded, exciting set pieces that are tactile and have a tremendous amount of tension to them.
That's it for this episode. If you haven't already, make sure to leave us a review wherever you are listening. It helps other Marvel fans find the show.
Yes, and make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an episode.
This episode was hosted by Preeti Chibber and myself, Langston Belton.
Our producers are Jasmine Estrada and Anita Flores, with additional writing by Christopher Healy.
With help from Senior Manager of Audio Production and Development Brad Barton and Production Manager Emily Godfrey.
Mixed by Emma Munger.
Theme music by Ida Akbal.
Executive producers are Larissa Rosen and Jesse Berger.
Thank y'all so much for listening. See you next week. And now, presented for you, the Marvel Unlimited Legal Disclaimer.
Auto renewal and other terms and conditions apply. Marvel Unlimited is open to U.S. residents ages 18 and up. Void where prohibited. Marvel will automatically renew your subscription by charging your payment method on file at the renewal rate then in effect, unless and until you cancel. Subscribers can cancel their subscription at any time by accessing My Account or reaching out to Marvel customer support at help.marvel.com. All subscription fees are non-refundable. No refunds or credits for partial months or years. Marvel user account and internet connection required. See marvel.com/unlimited for details.
Nice, you did that.
Thank you. I am also available to read side effects of medications.